Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 554. Now, this is being broadcasted live on Facebook and also YouTube. You can go ahead and just search my name, and you'll find them in one or either of those places. And just make sure you go ahead and subscribe even. And then you want to hit the like button, do the whole bells and whistles and all sorts if you want to be able to get access. And you can also ask me questions, which I try to use post this episode. If you're listening to this on the podcast and also the app, and if you want to be able to download my app, it is freehypnosis.app. So www.freehypnosis.app, and that just means you can download a free app which has over 500 episodes, 554 as of this release, and over 100 hypnosis sessions right now. And we're doing upgrades. I'm investing a lot into it, and hopefully we're going to be able to make this app one of the best in the business. So if you enjoy it, please go ahead and leave a review and all that good and great stuff. But in today's episode, we were talking like, do we want it to be a power stream or do we want it to be a chill out stream? And most people said a chill out stream. It is Friday, although you may be listening to this on another day on the replay. So let's go into this chill out stream, and I'm going to be covering a number of subjects, but they're all geared for your transformation. You see, I want us to consider the stories that we live by. What stories are we living by? Are we living by the experiences of what people did to us, or society, or the significant emotional events we went through, which caused us to formulate a story in our mind that we think, okay, this is what life is. This is who I am. I'm not going to be able to achieve what I desire. Maybe I'm just a product of my circumstance. And after a while, we may have even heard those stories. We've been told those stories. Maybe your mom and dad were not, I don't know about hopefully good intentions, but maybe they said, look, if you don't achieve this, you're not going to do well, or you're not going to be enough. And if we're told these stories over and over again, maybe we've been in abusive relationships where we've been psychologically and even physiologically hurt, and they've told this same story about us. Maybe like, who are you to achieve your goals and dreams? You haven't got what it takes. You haven't got the substance. You're not enough. You're not worthy. You're not capable. Maybe we've had someone like that in our life. Maybe society, to a degree, has caused us to feel like we're not meeting up certain expectations, which then makes us start to believe that story. It's almost like we were told that story, and as we were told that story, we started to believe it in ourselves. You see, if you are told a story so often, you are going to start to believe it. That narrative is going to start to be woven into the fabric of you. In other words, it's going to make you feel like that's your identity, that this is all you are, that who are you to achieve that goal, start that business, charge what you're worth. We might feel like we cannot get that promotion. And maybe it is because of the experience, maybe we've taken on that belief. And it starts to be our perceived perception of our reality. It's our own distorted reality filter that starts to get into our mind, that nagging doubt, that nagging thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, the way that we show up. Maybe we don't get our results, and that makes us buy into that experience even more so, or buy into that story. Sometimes, because of that story, we almost normalize it, and that's the worst thing. We spoke about this a while ago. That it's almost like we allow our issue to be a normal thing. Like, it's just normalized. Oh, well, this is who I am. In the beginning, you might have been going, no, that's not me. I'm not that person. Yeah, I have my down moments, but that person over there, maybe they're putting pressure on me. Maybe I failed so many times, but there's a part of me which wants to keep on knowing that I'm something more. But after a while, that story becomes fixated. It gets woven into the fabric of us, and after a while, we normalize it. And that is the worst place to be, where we feel like our present situation, our experience, justifies our identity, that our past justifies who we are, where after a while we seek out validation from beyond us, from other people. We maybe become the people pleaser. We may just not look after ourselves. We might just try to help everyone else, and we forget who we are because we become so familiar with what we think is true. But that story we've told us has now become a reality. It's not a reality, of course, but that story has been spoken to us that we take it on as our truth. Not reality, but what we perceive to be true. Now, here's the thing, though. I want you to know that when we really get into this, that normalized behavior, we've got to be aware of the pain that it creates. You see, I think that pain is our shadow. Have you ever heard of that? Like our shadow? Well, I think there's learnings in our shadow. The thing that we kind of shy away from, that shadow, our issue, our conflict, the darkness, the fear, the worries and the doubts. It's our shadow. It's a contrasting experience of what could be. It's a contrasting experience of what we don't want to happen. It's almost like there's that little voice in our mind going, look, you can't do this. You're not ready. You're not capable. Because we've been telling us that story to ourselves, that we've now given it to our unconscious mind. And that becomes our shadow in the darkness. And as it goes into the darkness, we feel alone. We feel as if there's no way out. But what if that shadow, the thing we shy away from, the thing that we don't want to look at, what if we shine a light into that? What if we actually look at it for what it really is? It's a trained program running within us. It's a strategy. It's a habit. It may feel like our identity, but is it who we really are? Is it really? You might believe so, but is it really the fabric of you? I think if you took a hard look and shined a light upon the darkness, that you'll actually realize you are more. There's more to come from you. There's more experiences. There's so much more to be explored. So realize that shadow, the shadow that we experience, the contrast, the conflict. Let's not look away from it. Let's look into it. What if that shadow becomes our light? Now, what does that mean? Our shadow becoming our light. I think our shadow can be our greatest instigator. I think that pain that we feel, the stresses and the trauma, can be our greatest multiplier of our success. That if we look into the abyss of that darkness, maybe there's something to be learned there. Maybe there's something to discover about ourselves. What if that darkness, that shadow, was our platform? What if it was our foundation? What if there's low as we can go, so let's build upon that foundation and look up and start building and climbing and growing and transforming. You see, that pain in the shadow can be our greatest transformation even. I mean, if you think about it, look at all the things which have happened in the world. Innovation, and especially the last 12, 14 months or so. Some people, of course, have quite rightly kind of got in a bind. And without getting all political and all those things, but there are other aspects where some people have become innovative, like solving issues, coming up with new ideas. And I always see a problem as an opportunity to learn from. That's my mentality. That every issue is an opportunity to learn and grow. That maybe it's going to bring something out of me. Maybe that darkness is going to cause me to look within me and to realize that I can overcome whatever is heading my way. I mean, if you think of like Stephen King, his novel was like turned down, his first one, like 30 times. What if he gave in to that darkness and that shadow? What if he gave in to that rejection or that perceived rejection? Think about all those books which have been purchased millions and millions, created movies, not always great movies, I have to say, but creating some art. If he bought into that so-called rejection, maybe he wouldn't be doing what I'm sure he wouldn't, right? We get that. Now, if you think about Thomas Edison, the creator of the light bulb, over 10,000 attempts of so-called failure. What if he bought into that? 10,000, I mean, some people, they might give up after the first or second or fifth or sixth or seventh or 10th time. But no, 10,000 attempts later, roughly, I'm gonna guess, kept on persisting, kept on learning, kept on growing, kept on evolving, learning from it, coming to the conclusion, I've just found 10,000 ways of how not to do it, which means I'm getting closer to the yes, getting closer to the solution. You know, Richard Branson, as well, the British entrepreneur of like Virgin Atlantic, the space stuff, the store, the music label. I've read his autobiography like probably about 7 times. 7 times. I read it years and years ago. Whenever it first came out, that's what I learned. But I mean, he had dyslexia. Maybe that dyslexia was actually his superpower because it caused him to see things differently. It caused him to look at the world differently. Maybe easy for me to say. Dyslexia was actually causing him to look at the world differently. What if he bought into dyslexia as a negative, as something that's going to hold him back, that's going to stop him from ever progressing? That's not going to work, right? And think about the businesses and enterprises that he's actually created. So when it comes to our story that we can tell ourselves, many people can say ADHD, dyslexia, is going to stop you from achieving your dreams. What if it's actually your superpower? What if we learn in a different way? Most people, for example, with forms, I'm not saying everyone, but forms of ADHD, they're better kinesthetically. In other words, physically doing things, utilizing their physiology. They're not all about being told or the visual, but usually most of the time we're just taught that way. What if we realize actually we can learn anything from utilizing other modalities? So maybe not visual, maybe auditory, maybe not auditory, maybe kinesthetic. Maybe there's another outlook. How can we see the world differently? Maybe it's not our darkness, maybe it's not the shadow, maybe it's not the limitation, but maybe it's a platform. I mean, even Jim Carrey, he was homeless. And then I think he wrote that check of how much money he wanted to be earning, or from his first movie, and just obsessed over it, tuned into it. Did he let the homelessness or maybe other lots of trials and tribulations along the way cause him to be held back? Maybe at times, but eventually he went for it. He kept on going, utilizing that so-called pain, that struggle, to create something amazing. In stand-up, in his movies, and even in his art right now. Even Bill Gates, his first company supposedly failed. Like, one of the richest people on the planet. First business failure. How many of us may have just gone like, that's it, it's not gonna work. I'm done with it. No, he kept on going, and why shouldn't we do that? We should do that. We should look for the learning. We should realize that pain or shadow, the darkness, which is showing up all around us, maybe that darkness can actually lead us to the light, because that's where you see the light. You don't really see light very well, or as well, in the daylight compared to, I was going to say the dark light, the darkness. You see, in the darkness, we find where we're heading. Like, that's actually sometimes a good thing. It's weird to think about it that way. But then we've also got these two mindsets then. Is that darkness, the story that I live by, the shadow of me? The normalization of my issue, the normalization of what I am. I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving, I'm not capable, I'm not of value, I'm an imposter, all those things. I think we covered everything, which creates many, many other things. It causes us to feel like a what? Well, a victim. And a victim doesn't feel very empowered. And I'm sure we've been victims of many things. I know I have. I've been a victim to many things. But we can either be a victim or we can be a victor. How can we transition from being a victim to a victor? Well, a victim, and then, like I said, I understand there are going to be times when we are a victim, but it doesn't mean we have to remain a victim. We shouldn't allow that other person or that situation to keep us held back. We shouldn't allow them to define who we are. No way. We're more than that. Instead, rather being a victim, we must assume responsibility for this moment of what we do now and in the future. So instead of being that victim, we become the victor of what is possible. That can be an amazing motivation for us. To realize that we can rise because of it. We're not going to allow it to hold us back, and it can be anything: person, situation, economy, culture, whatever it is, significant emotional experience. Let's not allow that to define who we are, because I don't think that's the definition of you. You are not made up of something else beyond you. Yes, it may have had an effect on you. Life is life, sadly. Things happen. But it doesn't mean it has to dictate who we are, and especially where we're heading to. So let's move from the victim to the victor. Let's look what we can draw from this. Every great movie, there is a part, I think I've talked about this in a while ago, but in every movie, it follows something called the hero's journey. In other words, everything is pretty good in that movie. And then something happens to that actor or that actress, or let's just say the main character. Something happens to them. Now, the movie would probably be pretty bad if it just ended there, where that person, that actor or actress, was just the victim and that was it. That's not that good. No, they don't do that. You see, they face a challenge, an internal challenge, and it causes them to wake up. It causes them to go on a journey. Now, on that journey, they discover something. They discover something about their pain. They discover something about that shadow. They discover something about their issue that actually releases them from it. It causes them to be liberated. We liberate ourselves. If you look at that kind of timeline of every movie, I'm going to go out there, pretty much every movie. I said pretty much every movie, so I'm not going all out there. But most movies, there is the hero's journey when they come up against something. There's some kind of resistance, some kind of contrast, something that hits them and they don't know any way out of it. But it causes them to go on the inside. And as it causes them to go on the inside, they will then overcome it. But there's a second part to it usually, where they just discover something greater than themselves. So you had two journeys of that character. They overcome their own thing, but they usually go on to something bigger than them. And we'll get into that soon. Like, that's something bigger than us. You see, one example would be myself, right? I had significant emotional issues: blushing, worry, anxiety, dread, all those things. Never believed in myself, really bad at school. I was fine around my friends, but beyond that, I was a very, very nervous child and teenager. Always hesitating, always being anxious, always feeling the dread and the fear. So it caused me to do what? Where if I stayed the same, I'd be the victim of my circumstance. But no, I did actually go on the inside. I discovered something about myself and overcame my issue. But what happened next? Well, I found something bigger than myself where I wanted to be able to share what I learned. I wanted to be able to help as many people as I could. So that was like the two journeys for me, within myself and then beyond myself. So what if within us there's an opportunity to not only overcome that resistance and actually cause it as the platform of being more me, actually allowing myself to feel better, to grow in the tension, and actually move forward and grow, and then maybe do something greater than myself. You see, we've got to divorce the past. We've got to say no to it anymore. That's it. I'm done with it. That past is now been divorced. We are done. We're over. We're ready to realize who we are and go where we need to be. And only you can divorce your past. You really can. It's not on anyone else, even another coach or another therapist or another practitioner or any modality, even when it comes to, say, pharmaceuticals and drugs. Like, it's not the drugs. I mean, they're good and great, can change our state. So I'm not knocking them. Some people need them. But it's just going to usually mask the symptoms and the cause. So maybe we've got to be the instigator of that change. Maybe that we've got to divorce that experience in the past. Maybe we say, look, I'm done with this. I'm ready to break free. I'm ready to change my associations. I'm more committed to my solution. I'm more dedicated to my solution than doing nothing, which means I'm more dedicated to remaining the same. Because you could be just centimeters from success. You might be almost there, but you just don't know it yet. You may not know it, but right round the corner, right through that door, there could be something, a solution that is going to cause you to break free. So what if we just keep on pushing forward? What if we go, look, this was my setback. It's now time for the comeback. I was the victim. Now I'm the victor. I'm going to divorce my past, my negative associations, attachments, let go of my beliefs, and go all in on who I am. Why? Because it is right. Because it is right to experience freedom and peace. And the other thing with the contrast, the resistance, the shadow, sometimes it will actually not only cause you to be propelled forward, to grow, but because of that contrast and that experience, it actually causes you. It causes you to know who you are. It causes you to actually know what happiness is. Because if you were always happy 100% of the time, we've missed out on the contrasting experience of life, all those different emotions. Maybe our pain will actually make us feel so more grateful of the now success, the now the freedom, the now the happiness, the now the being, the awesomeness of who you are. So that contrasting experience can actually cause you to feel grateful for your newfound freedom. And when we start to make decisions and changes, we got to think about ourselves as being like a radio, okay? You remember the old radios? Well, not that old, I guess, but you know the tuning radios, right? Now, are we tuning into the music that we hate and just going, well, that's the only channel out there. I'm just tuned into 101.2. I don't know. Hopefully that's not a bad one, wherever you are, but let's just say it, if it were to be, I'm not going to just stay there and listen to that music if I dislike it. But if I keep on tuning into it, guess what I'm going to get? Well, I'm going to get more of the same music. So what do I have to do? I've got to tune into something else. I've got to change that dial, keep on scrolling. Yeah, there'll be some static and interference. It's not going to feel very nice or sound very nice. But eventually, if you keep on scrolling forward, you're going to start to feel in tune. In the beginning, you know, when you tune it, it's like you catch a glimpse of it just before you get to it. Maybe you're at the glimpse of your transformation. It's almost there, but then you're like, I'm not getting it, so I'm just going to tune it back to that station that I dislike. You wouldn't do that. So we shouldn't do that with our own psychology and our emotional freedom. We shouldn't do it that way because we want to make sure that we tune into the station of the success that we desire. And we are in control of that tuning, right? This is our car. We're driving the car, no one else. We are firmly in the driving seat, and you know the rules. If you're the driver, you dictate what's on that radio. That is the only rule that I've lived by there's lots of laws to live by when you're driving. But when it comes to who is in control of that radio station when you're in that car, you, the driver, you should be. You should be in control. And we've got to do that with our mind. We've got to get back into control and tune into what we want. And in the beginning, as I said, there's going to be static. You're not going to get the song, the kind of genre of music that you like. But if you keep on starting to radiate and tuning into where you want to be, eventually you're going to be in alignment with it. And eventually you're going to start to radiate it. You're going to be radiating your desires. And when you're radiating your desires, you're in tune with them. You are deeply aligned with them. The resistance has gone. The static has disappeared. You are now upgrading that signal that you are deeply aligned with it, and therefore you are heading toward where you want to be. Now, one of the ways of how you can transform this, right? How do we amplify that signal? How do we amplify to tune in to that radio station? How do we tune in to our goal, in other words? Well, number one, we got to let go of the victimized mindset. Bad things happen, but we're ready to break free. It doesn't let other people, situations off the hook, but by taking responsibility, you're actually saying, no, I'm more than this. I'm more than that person. I'm more than that situation. I'm going to grow because of this. And you'll see me be the example of what can be done. That's the power that I'm looking for. Taking responsibility for this moment and going forward. So rather allowing that shadow to keep us in the darkness, maybe there's something to learn in it. I remember as a child, going back to that, I used to hate the darkness, always fearful. I remember, I don't know about you, if it was only me, but I was the youngest of 3 children. And my elder brother is 2 years ahead of me, my other one is 2 years as well. So we're 2 years apart, and I'd go to bed first. And I would have to run up the stairs because it was a dark hallway up that stairs. And in England, we have old houses, so as a kid, they kind of freak you out a little bit sometimes. And running up that stairs into the bedroom was scary. But after a while, you get accustomed to it. You start to feel around where you're going. You start to be aware that the sound is the environment of the darkness becomes light, and you start to feel your way around, navigate where you want to be when you get to that point. And after a while, you're like, this isn't even darkness. I'm now used to the darkness, and it doesn't feel that dark anymore. And now, because of that, I see the light within the darkness. I see the light within myself. Maybe that darkness, that contrast experience, is only directing you to your inner light. And we can change what that word is for you. I'm just saying, as an analogy, it could be truth, it could be anything. It could be unconditional love for yourself and deep self-certainty. But maybe the darkness causes us to find the light within us. But how do we amplify that signal? Well, first of all, remember the 2 journeys of that every movie. You got to go within yourself first, but then you got to find something more about yourself. Now, how can we manipulate that further? Well, what is our mission? What is our ambition? What is our vision for our life? Look beyond just the next day. Where do you want to be, and why do you want it? Why is it important for you to let go of what you don't want, and why is it important to get what you do want? Tap in to your vision, your mission, and your ambition. You will be tuning in to that I've got the windy pups. We'll be tuning in to what our desires are. We'll be looking for more. We'll be going for more. We'll realize why we are what we're doing. Even taking the things that I've been saying today, maybe that's going to tap into your mission. Maybe that will tap into your ambition. Maybe It'll tap into the vision of who you really are. So to take away from this, we realize, look, those examples I said about those business people, the celebrities, successes, they failed, so-called failed. They had mishaps. They didn't get it done on the first time, or even the 10th or 9,999, if he did the calculations, Edison. There was always learning. There was always growth. There was always something to be able to get better at. There's always something to learn from. So in the failure, there is the learning. That's the growth. It's not a failure. It's your opportunity to grow. We got to no longer be the victim. Let's be the victor. That setback right now is ready, the launch pad, the foundation for your comeback. You are ready to grow, and we got to tune into that frequency as often as possible. That's our goal. That's our objective. Sometimes I speak to myself and I ask myself, well, how can I just feel better today? Not 100%, but if I just focus on feeling better or happier or more driven, more motivated, if I just focus on that small percentage point and I keep on doing that, I can only go up. Yeah, I may drop sometimes, but if I focus on getting more or better, like that little bit more, it means you're on the journey of growth. You're on the journey of learning and transforming your life to where you need to be. So I hope you enjoyed this episode on the podcast. And we got some great feedback already. But I'm going to end it on the podcast because I'm trying to make this a little bit cleaner and clearer for those on the live experience. And therefore, if you attend live, you get to ask me questions if you have any, or we can go over your observations, your learnings, and we can go, hey, how can we change? How can we transform? We can connect one another. So go ahead to youtube.com/Joseph Clough. Sign up. You'll get notified. You'll get the replay. You'll get to see me. Always a good thing, but you might be able to get to see me visually with the voice, with the sound, because you'll most likely maybe listen to this on a podcast or the app. So it's always good to go to YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, hit that like, hit that bell, do all those things, and that means we can connect with each other a little bit more. So with that, for this episode on the podcast, I hope you're wonderful and great, and I just want you to know that whatever you think you are always more than you think. Look for the light within the darkness, and that light is always within you. So, many thanks and goodbye.